Nice. What's going on, guys? Mason back here again with Wolf Development. I just wanted to kind of come in here and give you the basics of roofing. What you need to know as not only a roofer, but consumers too, because everyone has a roof and it protects your home. So let's start with the very, very basics. There's three main components that go into making your roof watertight. You have your underlayments, there's two of them. The two categories are your ice and water barrier and your felt. The ice and water barrier self-adheres to the deck. It goes in all the most vulnerable places. So in your valleys, the edge of your roof. Right here I have a small diagram. I am not an artist, so don't make too much fun of me. But in Illinois where we are, most codes say that the ice and water has to extend 24 inches past the exterior wall on all edges of your roof, okay? So that means on most houses, you're gonna need 2 3-foot rolls of ice and water at every edge. And then you're also going to need 1 full row in your valleys. The valleys is where 2 facets of your roof come together and join. It's a very easily compromised area in your roof. There's a soft spot in the middle, so if you don't have some kind of protection underneath, it can leak if a branch falls on it, if you have large hail, or just over time as the shingles get more brittle. Now the felt, there's 2 different main kinds, which is your regular felt paper, which tears super easy, and then you have your synthetics. Most brands like CertainTeed have their own synthetic underlayments, which helps with their warranty. They don't tear, they last as long as your shingles will, so it's overall going to be a better product to put on your home. Now, when it comes to your flashings, that is to make sure that any component, any penetration of your roof surface does not leak. The number one place where we see roofs leak is around pipe jacks, chimneys, at roof to wall transitions, like let's say you have a covered porch and have that nice little roof that meets with your second level. That's actually kind of represented here a little bit, where you can see here's where a roof would be around it. You're going to have something called step flashing on all sloped edges of roof to wall transitions, and you're going to have L flashing or apron flashing on any level roof to wall transitions. Now, the most important thing that we see and that we do when we build a roof is we actually take off the siding in these areas. So we can run ice and water barrier, again, it's self-adherent, from the roof deck up 5 inches minimum onto the exterior wall. Now that creates a channel that even if water did manage to bypass your step flashing or your L flashing, it still has nowhere else to go. Now, when you get to the edge, one of these nice little corners, I'm sure you have one on your house, you do what's called a kick out flashing. Now the kick out flashing is pretty cool because a lot of them are made kind of on site out of the step flashing. Step flashing is basically an 8-inch by 8-inch piece of metal, again, not an artist, that you bend at 90 degrees and it goes one side on the wall and one side on the roof, okay? Now, once that does, it creates a channel as it's interlaced with every run of shingles, so each one would have a shingle on the roof side, a shingle that goes on it, then you have your next step flashing, another shingle, so it creates a channel that runs with your roof on that transition. Now, because it has gaps, it's not one continuous piece of metal. If you get really high, heavy wind-driven rain or ice damming, it can make it in those gaps. It can run back, ice can force its way in, and then you have a leak. Putting that ice and water up the wall now creates a place where no water can get in. It's a solid piece of self-adhering, thick, durable underlayment. So it's really, really important. Most roofers do not take off siding, they do not install ice and water up the wall, and most of them don't even change these flashings because it's too hard. Or not even that it's too hard, it costs them money. We make sure to do it on every roof that we do because it is the number one place where we see roofs leak. The other one is your chimneys. Now, I'm sure if you look up at your chimney right now, you're gonna see some big gaudy flashing, goes all the way around it, some kind of colored aluminum or galvanized steel, and then there's just a big glob of sealant, caulking, roof cement, something on the top, and then you'll normally see it at the bottom on the roof line. That's because they didn't do it right. Now, what we do is we remove everything, down to the raw chimney, down to the brick. If it's sided, we take off the siding, and we do the same thing. Ice and water up onto the chimney. If it's a sloped edge, we do new step flashing. If it's an even edge, we will do an L flashing. And then there's no place for water to get inside. Then, if it's not brick, you put the siding back on. If it is brick, you actually put an apron on it where you grind a line with the chimney, and then you custom bend a piece of metal that looks a little bit like this. That goes against your chimney, covers up your step and L flashing, and this right here goes into the brick, into that gap that you cut. Once that's done, you wedge a little piece of metal to give it a snug fit, and you put a small amount of a manufacturer-approved sealant to keep it from coming out or from water sneaking down the chimney to run inside. It shouldn't, but that little extra precaution does help. Now, on a roof like this, we see this far too often where it is a sloped roof surface, you have your chimney, and then there's just this dead zone behind it. The water runs straight into the back of it, there's nothing to help shed the water, and water finds a way. It will find a way into this transition, and you will have a small leak, even if everything is flashed properly. So one thing that we do to help that is we build what's called a chimney. We'll put a little bit of plywood in 2 triangles right here to create a slope. Let's say this is the back of your chimney, to help water shed around it, okay? That helps water shed around your chimney so it doesn't go into your home. Water will follow the path of least resistance. So if you give it a little bit of resistance, it's not gonna go inside. It wants to, but it can't. At the bottom, with these custom aprons or counter flashing, you're gonna see it extends past the chimney. That's to help the water shed onto the roof and not wick around underneath. But small details like that we'll get into later on a more complicated video. As far as other flashings, you have your pipe jacks. Anywhere where you have a pipe that penetrates the roof, there's a jacket or a boot that goes on it. We always recommend the full coverage jackets because the boots, the rubber cracks in 10 to 15 years and then you have to replace it, which means that you have to threaten the integrity of your roofing system. You have to detach shingles, you have to put new ice and water, and it's not worth it. So the lead jackets are a lot better. They last as long as your shingles will, and as long as they get changed with your next roof, you'll never have an issue with them. Stuff like skylights, stuff like turtle vents, all of them have some kind of apron or some kind of flashing that goes around them that keeps the water out and allows it to serve the purpose in which it's there for. And that pretty much does it for flashings on your basic roof. Then we have our shingles. There's 3 types of shingles, or shingle components. You have your starter. Your starter go on all eaves, and if you have a good roofer, all rakes. It has an extra seal strip on it, so it helps where wind is most vulnerable on your roof. It helps keep the shingles down so they don't blow off. It's nice to put them on the rakes. You can see a rake is a sloped roof edge, and eave is a level roof edge. Easiest way I remember the distinction or teach people, eaves are even with the ground, parallel, okay? Rakes, there's no fun way to say it, but that is what it is. Gable is an open edge of your roof. Normally you'll have a little gable vent or something, and then you have your hip. Your hip is where your roof doesn't end, it becomes another part of the roof that ends in another eave, okay? Those are the 2 most common roofs that you'll see. Here's a little dormer, which is one of those awful roof windows that leaks all the time because most people don't do the step and L flashing. Other than that, the only real thing in terms of the basics is your shingles, which are going to cover everything else, and then your hip and ridge caps, which go on the top to protect your ridge. The only thing I missed, which I do remember, is your drip edge goes on all rakes, your gutter apron goes on all eaves, and that helps seal. It's just, gutter apron is a little L like this. The gutter then goes in there, and it keeps water from backing up into your house. What we like to do on these areas, and what we always recommend doing your gutters at the same time as your roof, is we want to take that ice and water that's going at the lowest point of all roof facets, and we want to wrap that down onto your fascia board. So it creates an extra barrier there, so wind-driven rain, gutter backup, ice dams don't have a place to get inside. It's the same kind of concept as the roof-to-wall transitions, but it's just another little thing that you can do to help protect your roof. Now the drip edge is just slightly different. It has this little bump out like this. And the reason it goes in the rakes like this is you want to let your shingles overlap a little bit. Say this is your edge, that's your shingle. You want the water to flow over the edge, not to wick underneath. So that's why there's a small distinction between gutter apron and drip edge. But outside of that, those are the basics. It's not too much, just about everything you need to know fits on this small blackboard. So let's go into a little bit of the type of shingles that you can use. There's two main that you'll see on your average residential roof. So you have your 3-tab, and that gets its name because there are 3 tabs on every shingle. Every one of these 3 makes up one shingle. And then you have your laminated or your architectural shingles. These are actually 2 layers. They're laminated together. They're a lot more durable. They don't force up from wind as easily, and they're a little bit thicker, so it protects against stuff like branches falling down, large hail, stuff like that. Unfortunately, architectural roofs do not do a good job of defending against stuff like that because it is a softer material. It's never going to be better than your metal roofs. It's never going to be better than your synthetics, your shakes, your slates, anything like that. But economy-wise, if an architectural shingle is installed properly with the right components, it should easily last you 20 years unless a tornado rips your house off the foundation. But in that case, you probably have bigger problems. So that's what insurance is for. But this is the basics, guys. Everything that I've described in this video, this is really all you need to know as an entry-level person into a roofing company or as a consumer when you're looking to put a new roof on your house. You should be asking your contractor about all these things. Hey, what are you gonna do around my chimney? I have dormers. What are you gonna do around my dormers? Oh, I have these roof-to-wall transitions. I have a covered porch that has, a level area and a sloped area. You're gonna replace the step and L flashing. You should be asking these questions of your contractor. And if they say something along the lines of, oh, we're gonna reuse it, it doesn't need to be changed. Oh, we'd have to take off your siding to do that. Oh, we really don't wanna cut into your brick. These are not roofers. These are shingle swappers, and you don't want them. You want someone that knows what they're doing. That is why all of our salespeople, our project managers, even our office manager who spends all day in his office and has never set foot on a roof, she can tell you what every one of these components are, what it does, and the importance of why it's there. That's where it starts. Because if the guys that are out there peddling this don't know what they're doing, how can you expect them to sell it properly or make sure that the homeowner's informed? So until next time, I'm gonna get into some of the more complicated things. I'm gonna let you guys go here, but have a great day. And if you need a roof, call the Wolf.